show me love and I'm your
What is up, YouTube? So today I got a special video for all the gamers out there that game on Xbox or PC in a way, because Xbox controllers, of course, as you all know, if you play like Fortnite or something, you could use your Xbox controller on the PC wired in. Okay, so what we're gonna do is compare the Elite controller to your standard controller and show the differences between them and whether or not you should buy the Elite or you should buy the regular controller. It's going to be personal preference as far as your needs are concerned, but today we don't have a Elite controller. We have the Elite Gears of War controller, so it's the special edition controller that came out a while back, and as you all know, if you're looking for one, they're very limited because most people don't want to sell them due to how exclusive they are. And not only that, the people who want to sell these controllers are selling them for a premium. So I already sold the Elite controller, the Gears of War one already. I know it sucks, but I am getting in the Elite 2 controller, and when that comes in, I'll do a full review on it and whether or not you should buy that one or the Elite controller. We could go over some of the features that the new Elite 2 has before I get it in. So they're on pre-order right now and I don't have it, so this is what I got to review. And before I get rid of the Elite controller, shipping it out, I'm going to go over it so that way you could see the features that it offers and whether or not you should buy it. So first things first, let's go and open up your standard wireless controller. I have a wired one, but I mean, I don't believe anyone buys those anymore. So right off the bat, you have this little casing up here, which will house your batteries and stuff. And then you open it up here, and then you're greeted with your, Xbox crap, all different languages and the warranty and all that stuff. Okay, so that's a bunch of nonsense that nobody cares about. It says Xbox on it, it's a typical box. This one's the red edition, so that's pretty cool. I'll show you the controller in a little bit. And then you got the Gears of War. Okay, this is the Elite one. So if you're looking for one of these, your standard controller is going to run you around $50, maybe a little bit cheaper. The Elite controller will run you around, for a used one, you should be in the ballpark of like $80 to $100. For a brand new one, I think they're like $150 right now for the white one. Everyone thought that was going to be the only update. And for your standard black one, I believe it's like $20 cheaper. So the $130 range. Your Xbox Elite Gears of War edition, Gears of War 4 to be exact, because they have a Gears of War edition that looks like your standard controller. But the Gears of War Elite will run you, so I picked this one up around $250. I sold it for $300, so I made a $50 profit in this purchase. And well, you got to factor in all your fees, right? So eBay fees and all that stuff. But I was able to break even or close to even on this purchase, right? People who are selling used ones are going to be selling them around that $250 range to $300 range. This one was new. So, I mean, for $250, that was pretty cheap. I sold it for $300. The guy's paying the shipping and all that jazz. So we basically came out and reached an agreement. So that way I was able to do this review, have it for a while, and get my money back out of it. That's what's cool about investing in limited edition stuff, is you could resell it, especially if you bought this new. This was probably way cheaper than $250. I'm not quite sure on how much it was, but given that, if you buy the limited edition stuff, you know you can make your money out of it, or back out of it later on down the road if you ever decide to sell it. Okay, so what's in the box is your limited edition setup, the hard shell case with the chainsaw and stuff on it. The backside's blank, and then you got this rubberized pull tab on the zipper. The regular Elite, the silver or black edition, whatever you want to call it, and the white one come with the same setup, except it doesn't have the saw on it. You open it up and you greet it with the little foam piece to hold your controller in place. You got your D-pad. You have your extra, so these are extended thumbsticks or joysticks, whatever you want to call them. And then you have the ones that are extended here instead of having a dome like these ones have. So it's a dome on it. These ones have a convex, or concave, my bad, convex, and then a concave thumb rest. Okay, so that's the difference. I like the concave ones versus the convex. These ones don't have as much grip. These have this little indentation, so that way your thumb sits in there nicely. And then you have also the serrations along the side of it. Let me see if I could get that in focus. So that's the difference there. So put in the thumbsticks back. And then also your paddles are placed in there when you get it as well. So once you take this out of the box, underneath, that's pretty cool because you can so you can see the little logo, but when you take it off, that's pretty cool how they incorporate that stuff. It's like the little things, little details seem to be the best. You have your cord here, which I had never taken it out of the box, and you have your batteries in one end. So that's that. And then of course you have, let me see if I can lift this out of here. So you can't lift this out of here. As you can tell, I don't really care about instructions, so I haven't checked it. So you just lift up on this, you get a little gamer card here, and then you have the book neatly placed in. I don't want to tear anything, so there we go. So you have these tabs that hold everything in. You have your instructions, your warranty, your guide, all that good stuff that no one really cares about. But the fact that they paid attention to the details is pretty cool. See if I could get this back in. There we go. So as far as like the presentation of everything is really nice, especially because they did these little offset cardboard setups here. So it's like everything is neatly tucked away and sits flush. I don't think that goes in there. Yeah, it does. Right. So everything gets tucked away nice and neat. It doesn't go there. It goes back up here. And then that sits in there. So the presentation of this setup is just really nice. And, you know, when spending money, I'm glad to see that they pay attention to those details. So at first glance, both of these controllers look the same, especially when you put the regular little D-pad here on. That's the same as this. They look identical. No major difference there. Okay, if you turn this one on, this one lights up. It's like a white blue because the Xbox logo's dark. And then when you do this one, it's a brighter blue. So I mean, they're the same color initially. The only difference is this has a coating over the top of it, giving it a darker hue to it, but nothing majorly different as far as the look. Okay. So given the aesthetics, basically they are the same as far as the top's concerned, until you realize that you could take off the thumbsticks on the Elite. So if you look here, there's the removable thumbsticks that are magnetized. You got little notches in there, so that way if you look at the controller right in this area, you can see the grooves cut out, and when placed in there, they're magnetized, so they snap right in on their own. And you can run high thumbsticks if you want, that it comes with on one of them or both of them, paired up however you like. And then also you can swap out the D-pad. Okay, so one of the Easter eggs on here is it says Grub Killer if you're a fan of Gears of War, and you could basically put that back on. Same thing with the other D-pad. Everything's magnetized, so it snaps on really fairly easily. I like this setup better than this because I have to hit these edges for it to pick up, whereas this I could just toggle over and it'll automatically shift over. Okay, keep in mind, if you find someone who converts their controller, this is a real Gears of War setup. So if you find a converted one, you'll notice that this D-pad here is going to be green, like a lime green. And also, here's another Easter egg. It says Gears of War right here. So the copies or the people who convert theirs will not have that. Okay, and if they convert their standard Elite controller, they will not have the colored thumbsticks like this. They'll be black. That's a dead giveaway on the real ones versus the fake ones or the converted ones, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so keep an eye out on that type of stuff because you will not get a premium price for that. Also, the major difference in the front here, they both have the same buttons, but this one has a slide switch here, which allows you to program this controller. I'll get to the paddles in a bit, but it allows you to program the controller, to program the paddles to the controller to represent X, Y, B, and A, and then you could toggle it over to convert to have another combination of settings as well for the paddles, so that way if you play a different type of game with this controller, you could have two sets of modes on here, so that way you don't have to keep programming it. It's already programmed and you just slide over. Okay, so from the front standpoint, okay, they're identical. They both have their bumpers on top and bottom. They have their triggers and all. This one says Xbox, this one doesn't. Okay, they have micro USB, and they're wireless controllers, but they are not Bluetooth. Okay, so if you're looking for Bluetooth, you're out of luck. All right, and that's gonna get into the Elite 2 and the reason why I bought the Elite 2 once we're done with this review. Okay, so you have your ports for, they're both the same. So you have your Xbox headphone port set up, and then your 3.5 millimeter jack if you just run it by itself. Okay, so that's a quick look at the top and the front. Okay, now for the back, what makes the Elite a better choice in my opinion? Everything's similar except for the paddles and the trigger locks, okay, or the trigger adjustments. So before we get into that, I'm going to point out the obvious. Besides the paddles, we have grip on the Elite, a rubberized grip. It's really no big benefit. Some people like the grip, some people don't. I could take it or I could leave it. It doesn't matter. The reason why I would leave it if I were to have an option and said I didn't want it is because these rubberized grips start falling apart after heavy use. Okay, whereas a standard controller, it has a texture on it, like you could hear it versus like the top. So you could hear the texture on the bottom, and this will never wear out. Okay, it's plastic, so you won't have to worry about that. And for the door, you have an Elite. On the Elite, you have a little insignia here, or the emblem, whatever you want to call it. And that's a pretty cool Easter egg. And then compared to the regular Elite, the cool thing about the Gears of War, of course, you have the thumbprints and fingerprints everywhere, and the color combination, I love it. It's awesome. Really nicely done, in my opinion, but that's all personal preference. I mean, you know, look at that. It just looks amazing. You get the cut lines of like where nails have been ripping through the controller. It just looks pretty cool if you're a fan of Gears of War. Also, the paddles have the fingerprints on it. Okay, so one cool thing about having the Elite controller is the adjustable trigger. The adjustable trigger settings. So there's two adjustments: long travel and short travel. The Gears of War travel indicator here will have like little hash marks on it, which is pretty cool because the original one, or the original Elite controller, and the white one, they just have a travel indicator with no hash marks. So that's a little Easter egg to your Gears of War setup. So all the way facing forward is long travel, and all the way back is short travel. So long travel looks like this, okay? And then short travel looks like this. So you could see that the travel is very short compared to this, which means that you could transition between scoping and shooting a lot faster depending on the game you're playing. So that's pretty cool. And then on the app, everything is also fully adjustable as far as these trigger pulls. So even though you got this short pull, barely pushing down on it, like say something like that, could give you a full trigger pull. So the app is endless as far as adjustments are concerned. These are just physical feedbacks that give you that feel, but the app will allow you to do that precision movement. Okay. Also, this says P1, P2, P3, and P4. That just is your paddle 1, paddle 2, paddle 3, paddle 4. So when you're modifying these on the actual app, you know which ones you're modifying. The cool thing about the modifications here on the app is you pull in these paddles, and it'll allow you to program these buttons here to whatever you want the paddle to do, or the bumpers and stuff. Okay, so if I want it, say on Fortnite, if I want to be able to switch or build, this is a big advantage over your standard controller, because you could build and switch from platform to ramp to wall really fast. And then you could also set one paddle to adjust from building materials or your weapons by just clicking your paddle or squeezing your paddle. Instead of, so when you're playing a video game, whatever it is, when you got to use these, you're toggling around whatever game you're playing. So you're toggling around, panning around, and then now you got to push A, B, Y, or X or whatever. Now you're taking your thumb off of the joystick here, just to use these. By programming your paddles to represent these letters here, what it allows you to do is do these transitions, but yet squeeze the paddles to access whatever capabilities these give you in your game or your gameplay. And that makes doing things a lot more pleasurable and faster, especially on a real competitive game like Fortnite. You know, when you're going and trying to do this to build, throw a wall up or a ramp, you know, and people are playing on PC, you're at a disadvantage by a lot because you're on a controller. And not only that, that controller makes you take your thumbs off of here, so you can't really aim panning around, you know, it slows you down. So very beneficial here. So it depends on the games you play to determine whether or not this is the right controller for you. As far as an elite controller is concerned, whether or not you should buy the Gears of War one will be determined, you know, based on your style, if you like Gears of War or not. Ultimately, the reason why I like this controller though is that the color combination, like, it's an amazing color combination. They really outdid themselves on this. I like this dark red look to it. So as far as the general aspects, you know, are concerned, that's basically it as far as the differences. So this aside, would you choose the Elite over the standard Xbox controller? It's all going to depend on your gaming style and the games you play. There's people that are plenty fast by doing, you know, the crab hold and, you know, flipping through these and manipulating this stuff. These paddles, I gotta say, it took a long time to get used to the paddles. It just doesn't happen overnight, okay? Because you're playing and then you get into a position where you got to think fast. You know, everything's happening so quick that you're just pulling these paddles in, and then you don't realize what each paddle represents. So that goes all out the window. So it's all repetitious to get this down pat. So that's not going to happen overnight. Whereas, you know, this controller, everyone's already used to it. But doesn't mean that you can't get used to it. You know, what I found myself doing within the first week was moving to these buttons when I first tried this out. And then realized that, you know, this controller's not made for that. I need to use the paddles because that's what its design is for, and that's what you're going to get the most out of the controller by using that these features. Okay, so I mean, just a month worth of gameplay, as far as just, you know, a month just messing with this type of stuff. Because before the Gears of War one, I had the regular Elite. Then I found this one on a with a good deal. I got rid of my regular Elite controller to get this one, and it was just basically aesthetics at that point. But it took me a month to get these paddles down pat. Not great, but decent enough for me to play with them and feel decently comfortable playing with them. Would I choose this controller or the Gears of War controller over the regular Elite? If aesthetics isn't your thing, then no, because they do the same exact thing. But for me, of course, as you can see, I did make that choice only because it was basically a direct swap at that point. Okay. Would I get the white version of the Elite over the black one? I would have to say no. And the reason for that is because white gets dirty fast, and when playing, you'll build up crud around the seams, and it just looks nasty really fast. Okay? Okay, so lastly, after personal preferences play into effect, and you decide whether or not you should go with this one or this one. Um, Talking about this one, why I'm getting rid of this controller to purchase, or already have purchased the Elite 2 controller, is because the Elite 2 controller has Bluetooth capabilities. Okay, not the white one, but the second generation. And the cool thing about that is you could run it on your phone. If you're playing Fortnite or whatever game you're playing, you could pair it to your phone, whereas this one does not have that ability. Okay, which really is a bummer, because this would be a very nice controller if it had that ability. Also, I believe this might be USB Type C. Not 100% sure, but that might be a possibility. Also, the Elite, the second one, I believe has 3 adjustments for trigger pull, so that's going to be a lot better. And then also the battery pack, it's going to have an integrated charging dock. So you buy the Elite controller for $200, the second gen, and you have a charging dock so you can charge everything. That right there is worth it, especially if you're going through batteries because you're not plugged in. Also, what's cool about the second generation Elite, and it kills me to say this because I thought of this idea like 5 years ago, is the adjustable thumbsticks. So that was one of the ideas that I was pondering. And what you get is, if you haven't seen the Elite 2, go watch the intro on that, and you'll be able to see like all the tunings and stuff. But you'll see the Microsoft video of it. That's amazing. When I get the Elite 2, I'll go over all those features. But so there's a screw in the center that allows you to adjust down to stiffen up the thumbsticks, to get that real stiff feel to them. And you might ask, why would you need that? And because if you go to the app, it allows you to set the thumbstick. So if I want a real aggressive movement, I could just adjust the app to barely go like that, and it'll do a full pan. You know, you could set those adjustments right there on the software. But it's not the same as feel. So when I'm playing, you know, say I play a video game and I'm panning around, or I'm going in to scope someone and I just need to slightly, you know, move over. If I have that real sensitive and I barely go like that, and my thing just shoots on over, it's a lot harder to scope someone at a faster pace than not having those adjustments. So if you had those adjustments, you can make this joystick real stiff, where it's like I have to, if my force of my finger is real great, because I'm, you know, in that gaming state where it's like everything, all the fundamentals go out the door, you could at least push a little bit harder on that joystick and it will just barely nudge it over, versus you going like this and all of a sudden your whole aim gets thrown off. So that feature alone, in my opinion, I don't have it yet, so I don't know how stiff I could make them. But if everything plays out right and it's what I expect, that feature alone will allow you to get your shots on target a lot faster, and those transitions between shots way faster, and get those kills if you're that gamer type. So the ultimate reason why I chose the Elite 2 over this controller is not the trigger setups and not the adjustments, and not the look, because it's just going to be a black and silver one, just like the original one. It's none of that stuff. It actually comes down to the thumbsticks. Okay, so the thumbsticks have a adjustment screw, which I came out with this idea like 5 years ago. Like, no, not shitting you. But yeah, it was an idea I had, whereas you could adjust the thumbstick down to create tension on it, right? And you might be like, well, what's the purpose of having tension? Why do I need the tension on my thumbstick, right? When I could do everything, all this adjustment on the app. Because on the app of the Elite, if you move your thumbstick, say, like that, and you want it to be all the way over, but you just want to barely move it, you could set that in the app, and that little movement will allow you to push all the way over. So that way you do subtle movements. The issue with subtle movements like that is people aren't really tedious when they're playing a video game. You know, they're moving so fast that you can't just sit there and finesse this stuff. You know, like, yeah, you might end up pushing over like that, so you want the reaction time to already start as soon as you nudge it. But the issue with that is when you're scoping with, say, a sniper rifle or something, that sniper rifle, when you kick over like this and all of a sudden it veers off to the right or to the left really fast, now your target's gone because you're scoped in, right? By having the adjustments here, when you get into that game mode and, you know, you start, all those fundamentals go out the door as far as your reaction, you know, you kind of get a little bit, you're unaware of your movements. You get to a point where it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And especially if you're under, say, fire or something, someone shooting at you, you know, you get nervous and you start moving a lot faster than you should. And you're just panning around with this scope, and you're not getting your shots off as fast as you should be, because, you know, you're in that panic mode, right? So if the thumbstick adjustment is what I have in mind, you should be able to adjust that thumbstick tight enough for you to be able to push that, apply that force on that thumbstick more aggressively without it shooting all the way around. So you get that natural feedback, whereas the app, it doesn't allow you to get that feedback. You could adjust that sensitivity, but that feedback's not going to be there. I'm more of a physical type of feedback guy, where I like everything to be stiff, just because I get, like, you know, when you're playing a game and you're under fire, you just get overly nervous, and you're just like, you know, stop shooting at me or whatever, let me get that shot off. And you barely bump it and you're already off target. But having that stiffness allows you to finesse that shot inward and execute that shot. And especially if you're shooting at longer distances, you want that precision there. This was just a quick overview before I get rid of this controller, so you could see what the Elite's all about, as far as the overall look of it, and what the Gears of War one looks like, as far as the features that it comes with, and whether or not it's worth buying the Gears of War one if you have the money, or if you should stay and buy the regular Elite. One thing to look out for is eBay. eBay always has good deals, so that's a good place to look for great deals on them. Definitely keep that in mind if you're looking out for an Elite controller. So if you could get this for the same price as the Elite, the regular Elite or the white Elite, definitely I recommend it. But if not, it's not worth the extra money, in my opinion, because you're not getting no benefits to it. Whether or not the Elite is better than your regular controller, by far, I would never go back to a regular controller once I'm able to use this properly. Okay, if I was in your shoes, once you're able to use this properly, I would never go back to a regular controller. If you're on a regular controller and never use an Elite, then you don't know the difference, and it probably won't matter to you until you're missing the paddles. Okay, so if you have the money, definitely this is worth the investment. If you don't, then you could still do the same thing here, just certain limitations as far as this thumbstick to these buttons here. going back and forth kind of slows you down. So if you're into gaming, I definitely recommend this. If you're not so into gaming, but you still game, this will do you just as well. But if you're trying to be competitive, you're going to need this if you're not a mouse and keyboard. Because, I mean, games like Fortnite have just evolved to the point where it's like, if you're not using an Elite controller or a mouse and keyboard, you're not going to move up in the rankings very fast. It's going to be a lot harder for you, and that's just my 2 cents. So take it with a grain of salt. When I get the new updated controller, I'll definitely show you that and give you my opinion whether or not it's better to save the $100 and get the regular Elite, or if I think it's like $80 that you would save to get the regular Elite, or spend the $80 more and get the upgraded version if you don't already have that. So definitely keep everything in mind, especially if you haven't bought an Elite. I would definitely keep in mind that the Elite 2 is going to be more superior as far as the features that it comes with. And in my opinion, if you're, say you want to buy it like in the next couple of days or whatever, I would hold off on this if you're looking into Elite controller, because the Elite 2, in my opinion, is going to be superior, especially if you're able to connect the controller to the phone, and all those features that they promise are 100% true. Then definitely wait on it. If they're not up to spec of what the hype is, I would definitely consider just saving your money and getting the regular Elite. But added Bluetooth and the adjustable thumbsticks, that right there is worth the $80, because you could take it on the go and you're not limited to just running it on Xbox or wired directly to something. Okay, so if you like this little quick rant and rave about the two controllers and this little quick overview, definitely give it a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. If you want to see content like this and other content I'll be posting on my YouTube channel, definitely consider subscribing. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.